Tonight, the US and Israel push on with a forceful attack on Iran as Australia sends crisis teams to the Middle East. Heading home, commercial flights begin taking off from the region, including one bound for Australia. Hello, I'm Bethanie Alderson. This is ABC News South Australia. Also tonight, police confirm a second relative of Gus Lamont is not cooperating with them. The sporting world mourns the death of renowned commentator Dennis Cometti. And Adelaide Fringe ticket sales take a hit thanks to a fizzer weather forecast. There are major concerns tonight for more than 100,000 Australians in the Middle East as the widening war sees strikes intensifying in what are usually safe haven Gulf countries. Iran's drone and missile attacks are pounding energy targets across the region, with fears it'll send oil and petrol prices soaring. It's still attacking countries throughout the Gulf where there's been deepening travel chaos, leaving tens of thousands stranded. There are 24,000 Australians in the UAE alone. The first to get out are on their way home. But as European countries repatriate their citizens, Australia's government is under pressure to do the same. We begin our coverage of the war tonight with Matthew Doran in the Middle East.
Dubai feels the force of Iran's retaliation.
Another drone.
Panic outside the US consulate after a drone slammed into a nearby car park. Tehran striking targets across the Middle East as the US and Israel launched another wave of attacks.
We have severely degraded Iran's air defenses and destroyed hundreds of Iran's ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. And in simple terms, we're focused on shooting all the things that can shoot at us.
The building housing Iran's assembly of experts destroyed as the group of senior clerics prepares to choose the successor to slain Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Reports from Iran suggesting his son, Mojtaba Khamenei, could be in line.
Well, most of the people we had in mind are dead. So, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group, they may be dead also.
The US president's been pressed on conflicting messaging from his administration over his reason for going to war in the first place.
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack if we didn't do it.
The cost of US action is becoming clearer, with the Pentagon identifying 4 of the 6 US service members killed in a drone strike in Kuwait. The estimated death toll in Iran is ranging from nearly 800 people to 1,500, some killed in strikes, others by Iranian security forces.
This period will pass and Iran will come out of this historic test victorious. Don't have any doubts.
The number of people killed in Lebanon is also rising as Israel strikes back at the Iranian-backed Hezbollah, forcing tens of thousands to seek refuge in makeshift shelters.
I will say this honestly and courageously. I don't believe Hezbollah should have entered this fight at all.
The UK has started defensive operations shooting down Iranian drones over Jordan. But Donald Trump has again accused Prime Minister Keir Starmer of taking too long to grant the US access to British military bases.
This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
While Canada's leader used a visit to Sydney to qualify his initial backing of the US operation.
Prima facie, it appears that these actions are inconsistent with international law. Canada calls for a rapid de-escalation of hostilities.
A call unlikely to be heeded as this conflict intensifies once more.
And Matthew Doran is in northern Israel for us tonight. Matthew, Israel is launching a new wave of strikes across the border into Lebanon.
That's right, Beth. Good evening. We have seen alerts coming through in the last short while of the IDF not only hitting parts of the Lebanese capital Beirut and its southern suburbs, that area known as Dahia, regularly referred to as Hezbollah's stronghold there, but earlier this morning there was also a warning sent out to people across 16 different towns and villages in southern Lebanon that the IDF was about to attack. It claims it is targeting Hezbollah sites, weapons stockpiles and also officials there. But we do need to stress Israel has been targeting Lebanon for the best part of a year, even though there has been a ceasefire ostensibly enforced between Israel and Hezbollah during that time. We have also seen over the last day or so a massive build-up of Israeli troops and military hardware along Israel's northern border in the distance behind me, as Israel Katz, the country's defence minister, authorises that ground invasion. This is a considerable escalation. There is speculation within the Israeli media that even if the conflict with Iran starts to peter off or the US calls time on that, this front could drag on for much longer. Beth.
Thanks, Matthew. Matthew Doran reporting there. The ABC has spoken to people inside Iran who have broken through the regime's communications blackout, many expressing their fear and, for some, their hopes for regime change.
In the Iranian city of Minab, the bodies of children fill this morgue, their belongings buried in the rubble outside. Amid the shelling, Iranian voices are breaking through the regime's internet blackout.
If I die, I'm okay with it. If that leads to the destruction of this regime, this terrorist, I'm okay with it.
One man telling the ABC of his terror living under assault. We've changed his voice to protect his identity.
The blasts are so loud, they wake me up in the middle of the night. We hope the bombings will be over soon.
Iranians with family inside the country are living in constant dread.
That is the last message that I received from my father, February 28th, the first day of attack.
Sepideh Jordairi tries calling. No one picks up. But finally, a friend in Iran.
We're hearing the sound of explosions all the time.
While many celebrate the death of Iran's supreme leader, the reality of war remains.
My friends, all of them are opposing the Islamic Republic, but all of them are opposing this war too.
The schoolgirls in Minab were among the first killed when the US and Israeli bombs began falling. The US denies deliberately targeting civilians.
Unlike here in Israel, Iran doesn't have a warning system or even any bomb shelters to protect its citizens from airstrikes. And human rights groups have warned that the regime's communications crackdown during a war could lead to more deaths.
For some, that fear is tinged with hope. Iran's clerical rule will fall. Bridget Alderson, ABC News, Jerusalem.
More than 200 Australians are on their way home tonight after the first commercial flight in days took off from Dubai. The federal government is now sending crisis teams to the region to help the thousands of Australians still stranded. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
A passenger plane takes off as smoke fills the Beirut skyline. Grounded for days, the first flights are finally leaving the Middle East, taking tired and terrified travellers home.
There was a real tense atmosphere. We were all kind of like, we don't know if we're going to make it. Even if we got to the gate, we don't know if we're going to go on that flight.
Never been so scared in my life.
200 Australians are tonight on their way to Sydney on board an Emirates flight from Dubai, but many thousands more still stranded.
Unfortunately, this conflict is spreading and intensifying.
The federal government now sending 6 consular crisis teams to the Middle East to help them.
We are conscious of how distressed many people are.
We want to see every Australian be able to come home safely.
This unprecedented challenge, one of multiple shocks governments are facing.
People are under enough pressure as it is. Developments in the Middle East do risk making that worse.
Global oil and gas prices are surging, with the crucial Strait of Hormuz still closed, paralysing exports. Donald Trump stepping in. The US Navy will begin escorting tankers through the shipping lane as soon as possible, he posted on social media. The US will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. Australians already feeling the pain.
They're just jacking the price up for fuel they've already got.
2 to 3 days ago, it was around $1.79. And now it's like $2 pretty much.
According to the NRMA, drivers in Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney are paying well over $2 a litre for unleaded fuel. Prices in Perth and Adelaide closer to $1.85.
Yet again, Australia's 3 largest capital cities are having their price cycles manipulated, and it is families who are paying the price.
Retailers cannot be taking people for mugs.
For now, the Treasury is not contemplating cutting the petrol tax. His budget challenges just got a whole lot bigger.
This extreme global economic uncertainty, and that does inform our budget for May.
The government's urging people not to panic. While Australia imports the vast majority of its fuel and fertiliser, Labor's assuring the public it has at least a month's worth in reserve on top of privately held supplies. But the longer this conflict drags on, the more exposed Australia will become. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Closer to home, South Australia Police say a second relative of missing 4-year-old Gus Lamont is not cooperating with their investigations. The boy's disappearance from a sheep station in the state's far north was declared a major crime last month. At the time, police said a person living on the property was a suspect and wasn't cooperating. The boy has since been missing since September, sparking a series of major searches. Police won't comment on the number of suspects in the case.
Yeah, we're still working with Gus's mum and dad, and there are other members of the family who are no longer cooperating.
Safe Work SA has launched criminal proceedings against a Riverland almond processing company following the alleged death of a staff member in 2024. It's alleged the 51-year-old almond co-worker was operating a gas-powered forklift in an enclosed cool room at the company's processing facility at Pike River. It's alleged the carbon monoxide produced by the forklift caused the person's death. Safe Work SA alleges Almond Co failed to implement effective controls, including not installing a carbon monoxide monitor in the cool room. 2 major hospitals in Adelaide have continued to postpone some elective surgeries due to air conditioning failure, while SA Health expects the bulk of planned surgery to resume tomorrow at Flinders Medical Centre. Fixes at Noarlunga Hospital are anticipated to take another 2 weeks.
An alarming situation facing southern Adelaide hospitals. The Premier disappointed by the temporary closure of operating theatres at Flinders Medical Centre.
What we've seen happen in this instance with the air conditioning at Flinders isn't good enough.
A power outage on Saturday caused the hospital's operating suite air conditioners to shut down for 3 hours. In a statement, the Southern Adelaide Local Health Network says all theatres have now returned to normal humidity levels. But about half of planned elective surgeries were today rescheduled as staff worked to replace and re-sterilise affected items.
It is concerning that the impact of an air conditioning system could make it very difficult to undertake theatre.
It's a similar situation at Noarlunga Hospital. Its operating theatres also remain closed due to an air conditioning failure. The Health Department expects surgeries to resume in about 2 weeks.
We want to see answers around what has caused these delays. We want to know when Noarlunga will be up and running, and as well for Flinders.
Everything that has transpired is exactly why we are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade FMC.
More than 7,000 elective surgeries are currently overdue across South Australian public hospitals. A further 25,000 public patients are ready for surgery but are on waiting lists. It's feared these temporary operating theatre closures could place additional strain on a health system already under pressure. SA Health says almost 90% of planned surgery at Flinders Medical Centre will go ahead tomorrow. Stephanie Richards, ABC News.
The state government is moving to keep one of South Australia's most notorious pedophiles behind bars. Peter Liddy was jailed for 25 years ago for the sexual abuse of children, but that sentence is set to end in June.
This is the former magistrate who could walk free in just a few months.
A quarter of a century ago, Peter Liddy was convicted of heinous crimes against innocent young children.
Liddy was a sitting magistrate when he sexually abused children at a surf life-saving club in the early 1980s. He was sentenced to jail for 25 years, which is due to end in June. But the state government doesn't want him to walk free, applying for an indefinite detention order.
Our first priority, our first concern is making sure the community and children are safe.
Liddy has been eligible for parole since mid-2019, but his applications for release have been rejected.
Even though he's elderly, we don't feel comfortable that he's still not a risk to the community.
The victims were abused at the Brighton Surf Life-Saving Club. It's improved processes to protect children and supports the move to block Liddy's release.
We all know the offences that he was found guilty of, abhorrent things that deeply impacted our organisation and others.
2 reports will be completed by medical experts and presented to the Supreme Court to consider whether Liddy can control his sexual instincts. It's a process expected to take several months, and while the sentence expires in June, the government is confident the matter will conclude in time. Sophie Holder, ABC News.
Tributes are flowing for legendary sports commentator Dennis Cometti, who has died aged 76. One of the most distinctive voices in the industry, Cometti called some of the country's most memorable sporting moments and was best known for his brilliant one-liners.
Came up behind him like a librarian. He never heard him.
One of the most recognisable voices in Australian sport, Dennis Cometti had a knack for capturing the moment.
But there was only one Cometti. However, there will be those who seek to achieve the tremendous standard that he set over such a long time.
Born in Geraldton in WA's Midwest in 1949, Cometti showed promise at West Perth, playing 40 games in the Waffle before injuries prevented a career in the VFL. But it was his media career, spanning more than 5 decades, that made him a household name. From Kieran Perkins' Olympic gold in 1996...
This is rare gold. The best kind of gold. Perkins goes in first.
To some of footy's iconic moments.
Like a cork in the ocean over his head. Oh my word!
He was so incredibly gifted. He was the best of his kind at his craft.
Cometti started at the ABC in 1972, calling Test cricket before moving to Channel 7 in 1986, where he forged a remarkable partnership with Bruce McAvaney.
He made footballers famous. I mean, can you do anything more than that?
It's rare in this world you're going to get 2 great people working together for so long. So, yes, it is a shock.
His loss felt deeply by those who worked with him. Cometti was inducted into the Sport Australia Hall of Fame and the Australian Football Hall of Fame. The media wing at Perth Stadium also named in his honour. AFL CEO Andrew Dillon says Cometti's lines would live long in the memory of fans across the country. An iconic voice of his generation, gone but not forgotten. Dennis Cometti was 76.
It may go down as one of the most spectacular media bust-ups in Australia. Controversial Sydney radio duo Carl Sandilands and Jackie O have ended their long-time lucrative partnership after a long, bitter exchange played out live on air. Their staggering $200 million contract is now in question as the fallout ripples through a shocked radio industry.
After 25 controversial years on air, Kyle and Jackie O are over.
It's crazy, I can't believe it. It's not really surprising. I mean, he says a lot of outrageous things.
I don't know if people really listen to the radio still, to be honest.
In 2023, the show extended to Melbourne after the duo signed a $200 million decade-long contract.
It did have some sort of magical chemistry. Whether you liked them or disliked them, there was always something worth tuning in and listening.
But they failed to win over Melbourne, and their Sydney ratings have also been falling. 2 weeks ago, Jackie O went off air after a live spat between the duo.
I was literally just doing it then.
It's affecting other things. Like your fixation on this has made you almost unworkable.
Kiss FM owner ARN says Ms Henderson had given notice and she cannot continue to work with Mr Sandilands. The company says it considers Mr Sandilands' behaviour an act of serious misconduct, and he's been stood down for 2 weeks.
He'll argue that they still owe him over time, $90 million or so. So I can't see a way where this doesn't end up in court and in an incredibly messy way.
It's a seismic event for an industry grappling with ever-increasing competition. Listeners now have an endless choice of music and podcasts to stream on demand.
They're probably one of the last big sort of named brand shows that are going to come through.
As listening habits change, so do the choices for advertisers. A business still relying on star power. Julia Andre, ABC News, Sydney.
The Adelaide Fringe says last weekend's forecast wild weather caused a slump in ticket sales on Saturday night. They believe the cost of living isn't a factor in the decline and are urging people to support the annual event.
Thousands usually flock to the Adelaide Fringe each year. But last weekend, ticket sales took a hit.
Last weekend's weather kept people at home, and we and our artists and venues felt the impact immediately.
79,000 tickets were sold for the opening weekend, and 30,000 of those were for the Saturday night. But last Saturday, box office takings dropped by half.
It was 30,000 dropped to around 15, so it was a big hit.
For artists, putting on a show is getting more expensive. To break even, they need at least 30% attendance.
I had shows on the weekend. Our show is quite large and I paid to do a show for an audience.
But the Garden of Unearthly Delights had a strong turnout.
People are buying well in advance. We didn't have such a big impact from the rain on the weekend because a lot of our shows were already sold out. So people did pack their brollies and they came to see the shows.
Organisers say the drop in ticket sales over the weekend isn't due to the cost of living. They say prices have remained steady for the past couple of years with an average of $36 per ticket.
We're not asking people to spend $60 on a show. There are those available, but there are also, as I said, there are tickets that are available for $20 a show, maybe even less than that.
They say the Fringe offers something for everyone. It ends on March 22nd. Sian Wakefield, ABC News.
Back overseas, US Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem has been grilled by Congress over the shooting deaths of 2 US citizens at the hands of federal agents in Minneapolis. Ms Noem faced tough questioning from both Democrats and Republicans over the aggressive tactics used by immigration agents. She refused to retract her comments, describing Renee Good and Alex Pretty as domestic terrorists. Outrage over their deaths saw the Trump administration shift strategy from mass citywide crackdowns to a more targeted approach. Turning to finance now, here's Alan Kohler.
The Dow Jones average of American blue chips fell 2.6% at the opening and managed to recover during the day to finish less than 1% lower, as did the S&P 500. But look what's going on in Korea today. The share market there has crashed more than 10%, and shares in Japan, France and Germany are down more than 3%. In Australia, the market shrank about $50 billion with falls across the board. Miners, banks and retailers. Gold and silver fell sharply because a lot of traders had to sell them to cover their share trading margin calls. But the oil price kept rising even as Donald Trump put out a post on Truth Social saying he'd ordered the US Development Finance Corporation to provide political risk insurance to ships going through the Persian Gulf at a very reasonable price. And if necessary would ask the Navy to escort them through the Straits of Hormuz. And the Australian dollar is down against all other currencies. Now here's a graph comparing the oil price rise this time with the median of all geopolitical shocks since 1980, obviously not including the 2 oil shocks of the 1970s. It does include the Iran-Iraq war, the Arab Spring, 2 Gulf wars and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now as you can see, this time is about half the course. Also, it usually takes about 4 to 5 months for the oil price to get back to where it was. Finally, some stuff from this morning's national accounts. Real GDP increased 0.8% in the quarter, as did total hours worked. So the growth in GDP per hour worked, otherwise known as productivity, was zero. So no sign of AI improving productivity yet, which might have something to do with this graph of domestic demand, which is the dotted line. Its two main components, government, that is all governments, including local and household. And it's pretty clear, isn't it? Here are the components of government or public demand. And well, it's not defence or investment, it's spending. And that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, the regional by-election posing a crucial test for the new coalition leadership.
The National and Liberal parties are at the precipice. Do they actually mean something to the community or don't they?
We've been let down, I think, badly by the Nats, by the Liberal Party.
One Nation are going to get huge support out here. They really are.
In sport now, Iranian footballer Sara Didar has fought back tears as the young striker opened up about the fear players have for their loved ones at home. Iran takes on the Matildas in the Women's Asian Cup on the Gold Coast tomorrow night, a world away from the Middle East where their country is at war.
Tilly's fever has hit the Gold Coast and it's business as usual for the Aussies as they prepare for their second match of the group stage.
We're here to do a job. We want to play good football, we want to get good results and ultimately qualify for the World Cup.
For the Iranian team, the war raging in the Middle East is casting a dark shadow over the tournament.
And the courage to be able to get up with everything that's going on is absolutely admirable.
Defiant, they refused to sing the national anthem before their loss to South Korea on Monday. Concern for family and friends caught in the crossfire at home is weighing on the players.
We are sad that what has happened to Iran and our families in Iran and our beloved ones, but I really hope very good for our country to have very good news ahead.
The Matildas will rotate their squad. They face a 3-day turnaround before their group deciding blockbuster with South Korea on Sunday.
At the moment, everyone's excited to play, and there's going to be a few disappointed ones when I do the rotation.
Organisers are expecting a capacity crowd here on the Gold Coast tomorrow night, which would be the first sold-out game in the tournament's history.
Well, I think you've just seen how far the women's game has come, especially over the last 5 years.
Overnight, China beat Bangladesh 2-0, and this afternoon, Japan beat Chinese Taipei. Mackenzie Colohan, ABC News, Gold Coast.
Stargazers and astronomy enthusiasts were treated to a rare total lunar eclipse blood moon last night. It began around 8:20 in South Australia before reaching a total eclipse about an hour later. The moon illuminated in a reddish-orange hue for about an hour as it moved through the shadow of the Earth. Last night was the last chance to see a total lunar eclipse for almost 3 years. Let's take a look at South Australia's weather now, and tonight's photo of a wintry track was taken at Waterfall Gully and sent to us by Anthony Edwards. Well, there was plenty of sunshine in the city today. It reached a top of 25 degrees about 5 o'clock after a low of 12.7 degrees. Across the state, it dropped to just 7 overnight in Robe in the southeast with a daytime top of 20.9 degrees. Further north, it reached 31.1 in Oodnadatta. Cloud brought showers to eastern Queensland today as wet storms scattered the tropics, interior, eastern seaboard and southern Queensland. Showers and storms will continue tomorrow for the tropics, the interior and the eastern seaboard, intense over Queensland's north coast. Also wet in Tasmania. Around the country, wet and 33 degrees for Broome, 31 in Darwin, a top of 29 degrees for Brisbane, 30 in Canberra and 26 for Hobart. Back home, it'll be dry apart from an isolated afternoon shower or storm in the far northeast, hitting a top of 33 degrees in Coober Pedy and 29 in Woodner. Further south, expect possible morning fog about the agricultural area, with the chance of a light shower about the lower southeast coast, reaching 26 in Clare. There's a final flood watch warning for parts of the northeastern, eastern and central catchments, and the flood warning for the state's inland rivers remains in place. There'll be clear skies over Adelaide again tomorrow, with a top of 27 degrees after dropping to 13 overnight. On the waters, variable winds below 10 knots, becoming southwesterly to 15 knots, then southeast to southwesterly in the evening, seas below a metre. The sun will rise at 7:05 and set about 10 to 8. And looking further ahead, a few tops of 27 degrees, including on Saturday, with 28 degrees for Monday, up to 33 on Tuesday, and a top of 31 this time next week. And that's the latest from the Adelaide newsroom. Thanks for your company. Stay with us. 7:30 is up next.